Hi, everybody. Michael Guberti, digital marketing strategist, co-founder of Guberti Giving. Happy you're here with us on another episode of Marketing That Clicks. If you're new to Marketing That Clicks, your host is myself. I create everything from Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, Google Ads, websites, email marketing. If you have an interest in that being done for you, let me know. And our nonprofit, Guberti Giving, helps to empower youth, single moms, and veterans. So if you know any organizations that support those audiences, we'd be happy to support them. Today, I have a very exciting guest for you, Dr. David Hanscom, an individual who has helped a slew of people in the medical arena, but also mastered over a 15-year experience, chronic pain, and actually quit his surgical spinal practice to do what he can to change the way we deliver healthcare. Doctor, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate being on the show. I'm doing great. It's a bit of a story. I practiced spine surgery for over 32 years. I was a complex spine surgeon, and I was a guy that people would come to after 10, 15 operations to try to salvage the problem. And I ended up in chronic pain myself for about 15 years, from around 1988 to 2003. And I came out of it in 2003, but I didn't understand the process until about maybe 10 years ago when the neuroscience research caught up with chronic pain. And what's happened now is that the neuroscience research shows us clearly what the problem is with chronic pain. It's a neurological problem. It's an embedded memory that gets connected with more and more life experiences, and the memory can't be erased. It's like learning how to ride a bicycle. Once you know how to ride a bicycle, you actually can't unlearn it. With pain, you have these impulses come into your brain that become memorized in about 6 to 12 months. There's research that shows how that happens. And it's consistent. And the problem is we're doing procedures for memorized pain. Have you heard of phantom limb pain?
Not until now.
Okay, that's when you have a leg amputated, but you still feel the leg.
Ooh, wow. Oh.
Okay, and it's a problem. And I learned about this in medical school. And at that time, I remember going, what? I mean, what are you talking about?
Right.
But I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I've done my share of amputations. It's rather dramatic. But 95% of people feel phantom sensations. 55% of people feel the leg like it's still there, and they feel the exact same pain.
Wow.
So they go sort of crazy because they can't distract themselves. But if you have phantom limb pain, how can you do more surgery on a leg that isn't there?
Right. Makes sense.
So the bottom line is when the pain switch is on, the pain switch is on. And what happens is that a paper came out last month showing that every procedure we offer that presents a chronic pain, which is memorized, has been documented to be ineffective.
Ooh.
It's particularly a problem in spine surgery because when you do spine surgery for pain, again, go to the phantom pain analogy, the success rate for a spine fusion for back pain is about 25% success rate.
Wow.
And we're now over $15 to $20 billion a year in the United States alone doing that operation. And there's a 40% chance of making you worse.
Great.
And right now, the culture of medicine, particularly spine surgery, is flat out disabling America. It's a huge problem. I know we're on a business show, but the cost to businesses is horrendous. And again, it's not just spine surgery, but the problem with spine surgery compared to the other procedures, there's such a horrible downside to it. Because when you do a spine fusion for back pain, you put pressure above and below the fusion, and the spine starts to break down. I have one gentleman, my record is, one gentleman started with his first operation when he was 30, did not need it, ended up with 29 surgeries in 20 years.
Wow.
And another gentleman had 18 operations in 36 months, did not need the first one. So it's become so out of control. I actually quit my surgical practice in December to pursue this project full time. Two things have happened. One of them is that chronic pain is solvable. The neuroscience research has actually shown us how to solve it. There's also a paper out of Baltimore that shows that doctors are simply ignoring the data. We're simply not honoring the data about how to solve chronic pain.
Why is that? Why is that?
Because it's an industry. It's an industry. And spine surgery, by the way, is generally the number one revenue generator of a given hospital is either cardiac surgery or spine surgery. It's all based on procedures that don't work. were literally pretending to do medicine. And I would see 3 to 5 patients every week that had either surgeries done or recommended on spines that were basically normal,
Oof. Oh my God.
right? And I just got to the point, I ran across one kid who was paralyzed unnecessarily. And I just said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I wrote my first book in 2012. Second edition came out in 2016 called Back in Control, A Surgeon's Roadmap Out of Chronic Pain. There's a website, backincontrol.com, that outlines an action plan that's very self-directed. We watch hundreds and hundreds of patients go to pain-free. It's self-directed. There's
Wow.
essentially no cost, certainly no risk to it. It's a structured method of presenting known effective medical treatments in a self-directed manner. You don't need a pain clinic. You don't need anything special. You don't even need a specialist. I get letters every week from people all over the country that I've never met that have gotten better on their own.
Wow. Great.
So I'm watching these people getting better so quickly. Even surgical patients on the schedule would cancel the surgery because they would get better.
Good.
And my second book that published last week called Do You Really Need Spine Surgery is the only book right now that organizes the anatomy and the neurological system in the same book. Allows you to make a very specific choice about doing spine surgery. I'm not completely against spine surgery by any means. If you need it, you need it. What I'm really against is doing spine surgery on someone who doesn't need it.
Right.
So I may end up talking to you at some point. I mean, my message is that I flat out have quit my practice at the peak of my career. I am determined to get this out into the public domain. The insurance companies and hospitals right now have no interest in helping me out. In fact, I've gotten sanctioned for doing this. I have had legal documents telling me to quit talking to my patients. I have a weekly blog, comes out every Sunday. I have a weekly podcast that comes out every Wednesday. I have a Facebook page. I am lecturing. I was on Coast to Coast Radio last week. I'm on TV. I'm doing this podcast. And I'm consulting with different companies to try to put the system into place. But it's a self-directed resource for a given medical system. About 90% of it's driven by the patient. There's no capital investment. The patient simply hop on the website, which is free, by the way. It will always be that way.
Good.
Doesn't even require an email to get onto it. There's no advertising, no products, nothing. It's just simply there. And I am developing some commercial projects eventually that will help move the process forward. But right now, I don't want to sound too altruistic here, but I'm a physician. My goal is to get you better. I don't want to have any obstacles in the way of getting you better.
Right.
So the website, the commercial product we're developing is going to be more easy to navigate. But again, hundreds of patients are getting better with just the book and just the website. And it's been really exciting. About 20% of physicians are comfortable treating chronic pain. Only 1% enjoy it.
Wow.
And I love it. I mean, it's been by far and away, people, again, I know you've read my book a little bit, but once you get into this a little bit, I'd love to have you just get a hold of me personally, because it's not very hard. It's really simple. I started a nonprofit that I had to drop. I like to pull this stuff right into first grade.
Wow.
Onward, right into the school system. We've done workshops, which is a very effective way of actually solving the problem. In our weekend workshops, we literally have 80% of people go to pain-free in the weekend.
Wow.
So it's been exciting. So I'm watching that happen, and the same time watching people be injured badly with spine surgery. And I just said, I just got to do what I can do.
Right.
So I am trying to change the world. I don't know how much I'm going to accomplish, but I'm serious about it, dead serious. I was at the peak of my career, had great partners, great fellows, loved my staff. And it just became compelling to do something different because we're really hurting people. The part that upsets me the most is that people trust their doctors. And the doctors, I think, are trustworthy for the most part, but the business of medicine has taken away our time to talk to people. We don't have time to actually understand who you are, what your problem is. We're making major surgical decisions on the first visit, and it doesn't work. But so that's what I'm doing. I am looking to people like you to help me spread the message further. My frustration, I'm a surgeon. I'm excellent with patients. I'm excellent with content. I write, I speak, but the whole social media, digital marketing, it's not that I can't do it, but I just don't have the bandwidth to do everything.
Right.
So, my goal is personally to create content, and I'm trying to create a business structure around it to, get it out into the world.
Well, thank you, first of all, for all the context here and great work that you're doing. So you saw what was going on, and because you have a heart, you decided to take a different direction. That's a great decision you made. Wow.
Yeah. So I'm just going after it very hard. I'm happy to discuss a different aspect of what's going on because the number one message I want to get out into the world is that I went from being a fearless spine surgeon, literally top fellowship, complex surgery, spine surgery is really, really tough, to having panic attack and anxiety in one day.
Really? Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Wow.
That's how the whole process started. That's what happened. And I thought anxiety was psychological. I went to psychotherapy. I worked really hard at this. It kept getting worse and worse and worse. It turns out that anxiety is not psychological.
What is it?
And I'm just curious your impression from your perspective, the way we're all raised. What's your impression of anxiety?
Well, somebody's overly perhaps nervous about how something's going to turn out, or they're anticipating a bad reaction, but it seems to be much deeper than just your thoughts.
And your generation, I mean, my generation too, but your generation in particular is really anxious.
I hear you. I hear you.
And you're taught that it's basically a psychological issue, correct?
Right.
But if you think about this carefully, anxiety just says danger. In other words, something threatens you either physically or mentally. Your body secretes a chemical reaction, your muscles get tense, your heart races. What happens, anxiety is just a sensation generated by elevated stress chemicals. It's just a sensation. It describes your chemical state, it describes being alert. The sensation is generated to be extremely unpleasant to force you to take action.
Wow.
The species of creature that did not pay attention to that sensation didn't survive. The species of humans right now that survived are survival of the most anxious, not necessarily survival of the most fittest.
Interesting.
Just like if you're lying on the beach, you have oxytocin and dopamine and the great drugs, and you feel relaxed. Relaxed is just a description of the chemical state. When you're threatened, you have adrenaline, cortisol, and histamines and other stress drugs, and you feel anxious. Anxiety is just the word that describes your chemical state that is not psychological.
Okay. Interesting.
And the reason why it's so critical, and this is the crux of the whole problem, is that we're essentially doing spine surgery on anxiety. Relentless anxiety is very unpleasant. And humans have a major problem in that we have thoughts and consciousness that creates the same chemical reaction as a physical threat. But we can't escape our thoughts. Right?
Right.
We can suppress them with drugs, etc. We can suppress, is what got me in trouble. The reason why I went to a panic attack in one day is because I was so good at suppressing stress, I became a major spine surgeon. And when it exploded, it was this huge chemical reaction in the form of a panic attack. Once the lid came up, I could not get it back into the compartment.
Right.
And with this relentless anxiety that got worse and worse and worse over time. And the reason why it's so critical to understand this is that the unconscious brain processes about 11 million bits of information per second.
My gosh, it's busy.
Well, yeah, I mean, I look at the sun, my pupils constrict, I'm shifting in my chair unconsciously, my mouth muscles are moving automatically, I'm swallowing, breathing, all sorts of stuff are happening. I have no conscious control of that, right?
Right. I hear you.
Do you know how much the conscious brain processes? Just take a guess.
Okay, so we got a lot with the subconscious. Let's go with 10 in a second. 10. Yeah, I'll go 10 a second.
10. Okay, well, that's a pretty good guess. Most people say, maybe 1,000 or 100. It's actually 40.
Oh, 40.
So it's 11 is 40. not 10 million, not 10,000. It's 40.
My gosh, unbelievable.
Okay, so you have 11 million versus 40, so it's a complete mismatch. Okay, yes. This is the crux of the issue. If anxiety is simply a word that describes elevated stress chemicals, how do you decrease anxiety? Because you can't do it consciously. It's 11 million to 40, right?
Yeah, I hear you. Okay.
And so talking about it's not going to solve it. We know the prognosis for anxiety disorders is very poor. I was actually in psychotherapy myself personally for 13 solid years trying to solve this thing, and it got way worse.
Wow.
But I didn't realize it wasn't psychological. Just even maybe really just about 3 or 4 months ago, it really hit me how clear this problem is. So again, it's 11 million versus 40. You're not going to talk yourself out of this. What would happen if you didn't have anxiety? You wouldn't survive. I mean, remember, anxiety just says danger. Every living creature has that to survive.
Right.
Humans, again, have the additional problem with consciousness going to the same part of the brain. In other words, emotional pain and physical pain are processed in a similar manner.
Right.
Same chemical reaction, but with humans, that reaction is sustained. What happened to me, I have sustained exposure to stress chemicals. The anxiety, again, is intended to be extremely unpleasant. And of all the chronic pain I went through, is that the anxiety, the unrelenting anxiety was just brutal. Is the worst part of the whole experience by far. The mental pain is actually a bigger problem than the physical pain.
Oh.
I'll go back to the question, if anxiety represents elevated stress chemicals, not psychological, just like relax represents relaxation chemicals, how do you decrease anxiety? Nobody answers this question right, by the way. I'm just sort of putting it out there to think about.
Well, let's see. I will
It's a little bit of a trick question.
Okay. Well, how about you got to get to the subconscious level? Now, the method to do that can vary, but you got to go there if that's where the majority of the thoughts are just flowing in, whereas the 40 in the conscious level are just chosen selectively.
Right. So here's the key, and that's part of the answer. That's a pretty good answer, is that you simply decrease the stress chemicals. Okay. Remember, anxiety is a sensation generated by elevated stress chemicals. If you want to decrease anxiety, you decrease the stress chemicals. It's 11 million versus 40. So the first step is to separate your anxiety reaction from who you are. Who you are as a person is this conscious brain. We look at anxiety as part of who we are because it feels like who we are.
Right.
Again, my cat has anxiety. My dog has anxiety, but they don't have a word for it. Okay, so anxiety is this necessary survival response. It's not going to go away, nor do you want it to go away. Anxiety is what you have. It's not who you are.
Good.
So visualize so first of all, I'll be interested in talking in a few weeks to see how this affects you, because it does change people quickly. First of all, get rid of the word anxiety. When you feel the sensation, just say my stress chemicals are elevated.
Oh, okay.
So change the terminology. Okay. Second of all, visualize a very large thermometer on the opposite wall and visualize, okay, my stress chemicals are elevated. Just visualize those stress chemicals being up. And there's a word play of alert, nervous, afraid, paranoid, terrorized. I mean, there's a word play on anxiety, right?
There is.
And so if you're afraid, your stress chemicals are fairly high. Or if you're upset about something that happened at school, your stress chemicals are high.
Right.
Okay, so the key issue is to separate from this is a reaction that I have, it keeps me alive. And then the other part of it is that there's this conscious brain is who I am. I wrote a website post called Anxiety, Your Bodyguard or Your Prison Guard. It keeps you alive, so it's your bodyguard. But when you identify with it as part of who you are as a person, it becomes your prison guard.
Right.
So once you've done the separation, that's the first step. The second thing is, and this is what the website is about, I would encourage people to look at the website. The entire process in my book and website is based on decreasing stress chemicals.
Okay.
So you do it directly through mindfulness, meditation, relaxation, visualization, exercise. Those decrease the stress chemicals. And we know that mindfulness works, but what the book does, it gives you the reason why it works. Once you've made the separation, you're a little bit stressed out, there's a little exercise called active meditation. Just drop your shoulders for a second, feel where you're sitting, and you simply change sensory input from thoughts to a different sensation. 3 to 5 seconds, multiple times per day. That's just one strategy.
Okay.
Another strategy is called expressive writing, which has been documented over 1,000 research to be effective. You simply write down your anxiety-producing thoughts or any thoughts, positive or negative. You can't control your thoughts, but you separated from them.
So if you just start writing out what's flowing through your mind, those 1,000 studies have proven to relax you a little.
Over 1,000 research papers.
Wow. Okay. Good.
And what's upsetting to me is that there's not one research paper, by the way, that documents that spinal surgery works. Not one.
Unbelievable.
And there's over 1,000 papers that say this writing works. After 15 years of chronic pain myself, I happened to start writing based on a book I had read. 2 weeks, things shifted. After 15 solid years of going down the hole, within 2 weeks after I started the writing, things started to shift. By 6 weeks, I was probably 70% better. By 6 months, I was fine. That
Wow.
was 20 years ago. If I quit doing my expressive writing, within 2 weeks, my ears start to ring, my feet start to burn, my stomach goes in knots. And what happens is your stress chemicals are elevated. It affects every organ in your body. So sustained exposure to these stress chemicals results in physical symptoms.
Okay.
I had 17 of these over 30 possible symptoms, which includes, by the way, autoimmune disorders.
Yeah.
It changes the histamine and cortisol levels. There's now a paper out of Sweden about 6 months ago that shows there's a very direct link between chronic stress and autoimmune disorders.
Wow.
Your generation has a lot of Crohn's disease, a lot of ulcerative colitis. We think MS is probably an autoimmune disorder. If you think about it carefully, autoimmune disorders don't just happen. I mean, something has to happen, right? The key that, I think this is high school science, by the way, but something threatens you, it changes your body's chemistry, and you have a fight or flight response. And when it's sustained, it's going to damage your body.
Right, right.
There are hundreds of papers showing that chronic stress increases your mortality by 7 years. You die 7 years earlier. You have double the heart disease, double the cancer risk, double the blood pressure risk, double the suicide risk, actually 3 times the suicide risk. I mean, the thing is, when people, it's not psychological. You're threatened. It's about the body's chemistry. The essence of solving chronic pain is actually connecting to your own capacity to heal, which allows you to feel safe. It allows you to regulate your body's chemistry. So if you learn these tools to actually start decreasing your stress chemicals, anxiety drops. And then I talked to your brother yesterday about what is, and that may be a different conversation that we have, but I was successful.
Right.
Major spine practice, went through medical school, top spine fellowship, whatever. I mean, really, I had a house, family, all sorts of stuff. I had everything that you would measure success by, right?
Yes.
I almost killed myself.
Oh, Lord.
I had 19 medical colleagues dead from suicide, including 4 of my medical school classmates, 3 of my best friends that are spine surgeons. They killed themselves. I had unrelenting anxiety. I lost my practice. I lost a marriage, all sorts of stuff.
Wow.
So is that success?
No.
Again, another conversation I'd love to have with you, taking some angles on this, but a couple website posts to look at. One of them is called The Ring of Fire.
Here we go.
Stress isn't the problem, it's the reaction to the stress.
No.
If you take on a new challenge, it's going to be stressful, right?
Yes.
My mindset, and I think most of our mindsets, I'm just going to plow through it, be tough, just sort of buckle up and not complain, and just get it done, right?
Right. Correct.
I probably have 4 times the stress on my plate right this second than I did 20 years ago when I broke.
Whoa.
Because it's about how you process. In other words, you train your brain to be less chemically reactive to the stress. Stress isn't the problem, it's that chemical reaction to the stress.
Interesting. Okay.
And you just simply train your brain to be less reactive. It's called neuroplasticity. It actually causes your brain to change structure. And as your body exposes to less stress chemicals, anxiety drops, creativity comes back. Take the word reactive. Just think about the word reactive. In other words, if something threatens you, you react, right?
Correct.
If you take the letter C on the middle of the word and put it at the beginning of the word, what do you have?
Creator.
Creative.
Oh.
So if you can create a little bit of a space between the stress and the reaction, in other words, you can see first, you have some choices. And as you make the more rational choices, it actually changes the structure of your brain.
I like that. That's good.
It's called neuroplasticity. So again, there's 2 ways of decreasing stress chemicals. One of them is actually just directly with mindfulness meditation exercises. But the other one is through neuroplasticity. We start training the brain to be less reactive. Then it's game on. Stress, honestly, I swear to God, stress ceases to become a stress. Now, that's different than being pleasant versus unpleasant. I mean, some things are unpleasant. Positive thinking doesn't work. That's a way of suppressing stress. So if it's unpleasant, but it doesn't take you down anymore.
Got it.
So it's a learned skill how to process the stress in a way that doesn't keep taking you down. And it's exciting. I mean, I actually honestly quit my practice because of this. We have hundreds of patients going to pain free. I one 35-year-old daughter of a friend of mine who had chronic pain, who had anxiety since she was 10, chronic pain since she was 15. And within 4 months of after working through the process with me, just a little bit of coaching, mostly her, she's fine. No anxiety, new project. She's going back to art. She's thriving at a level she never thrived at before. And she is so excited.
Great.
Because again, anxiety is what you have, it's not who you are. It's when you identify with anxiety as part of who you are, that's when you're in trouble.
I believe you. So let me say.
Anyway, so we covered a lot of stuff. So I know we can maybe have some other podcasts about some of the details of it, but that's sort of the general overview. It's really about connecting to your body's capacity to heal, so you can regulate your body's chemistry. It is not primarily a psychological issue.
Give me a few sentences to summarize this. I'm going to summarize it in a few sentences, and you tell me if I have this right. Here we go. So your message is that, and first of all, very multi-layered, but all going towards a great point of you can control through intentional practices, getting the chemicals in your mind right, because it's not the stress that's the cause of the problem. It's your physiological reaction that you can then retrain yourself, even mentally, to produce the happy chemicals when the bad ones usually come out.
Correct.
Okay, and you have this message and you work to spread it through social media, your blog, your website, backincontrol.com, everybody, so that they can really take back their life.
Right.
Wow, very exciting. And that you not only, what most people would consider the pinnacle of success, you left because of a greater mission involved, and you saw the truth of what was happening when everybody else would turn away.
Right. I mean, my patients that get better, they're so excited. I mean, they literally thrive at a level they've never been able to thrive at before.
Wow.
I mean, all of us, I mean, we're all assaulted by anxiety. It's part of life. We're taught it's psychological. We fight this unsolvable problem. And once you understand you don't have to fight it, you learn how to assimilate it and move forward. Think how much energy you have when you're not trying to fight this unsolvable problem. It's incredible. I mean, I literally have 3 times the energy I had in high school, and I had plenty of energy in high school. So no, it's exciting. So watching people thrive at that level, at the same time watching people being badly damaged by spine surgery, I just said enough already. So that's what I'm doing. So that's what I'm excited about being on your podcast. Whatever I can do to help your listeners move forward. I answer emails. I'm quite available. I would, again, I'd love to talk to you more, either professionally about, trying to move this whole process forward. But yeah, no, it's my life right now is to try to get this process out there. So I didn't really retire. It's redirected my energy.
Redirect. Okay, perfect. And if someone wants to learn more about you, backincontrol.com. Also the book, Back in Control. And if you mentioned your email, what would be the best email to reach you at?
It's on the website, backincontrol.com. I just also put a new book out called Do You Really Need Spine Surgery? Take Control with a Surgeon's Advice. And it summarizes a lot of the pain project in that book, but I'm just really against doing surgery on normal spines. It makes no sense.
Hello. Well, let me tell you something, Doctor. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your insights and really enlightening us on a decision that not changed your life, but is also changing other people's lives. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.